Welcome to the first session of price adjustment. In this video, I'll explain its applicability, but first let me quickly tell you why we use price adjustment. Let's consider an example. Suppose a project was initiated in 2018 with an anticipated completion date in 2022, giving it a duration of 4 years. So, however, over this 4 years period, inflation has led the increases in labor and material cost. These escalated rates have rendered the project's initial terms unprofitable for the contractor. In response to this inflationary impact, the contractor intends to invoke a price adjustment clause. Now envision a similar scenario, but this time, rather than inflation, prices have experienced deflation, which is impossible in Pakistan. In response to the unusual deflationary situation, now the client would activate the price adjustment clause. Now that you can understand why we use price adjustment, let me show you, according to the Pakistan Engineering Council, what are the conditions or scenarios in which price adjustment is applicable. Now, as you can see, this is the most recent version of the price adjustment document provided by the Pakistan Engineering Council. Now, let's proceed to understand its criteria for applicability. These following points outline the standard procedure and formula for price adjustment. You can access and examine the documented information by clicking on the link that is provided in the description, but I'll explain it to you in a very simple terms. The first one illustrates that the projects planned for the future should have a provision for price adjustment, and for the ongoing projects where the existing contract provisions will remain in contact. If there is no provision for price adjustment in ongoing projects, then a mutually agreed amendment to the contract is signed by the both parties, thereby incorporating a price adjustment clause. The second one illustrates that any changes in price will be calculated and paid on based on the original timeline set for the completion of project. Now let's move on to the third one. Now, if the completion of contract exceeds the original schedule period, then in case of default on part of the contractor causing delay in original schedule period, the price adjustment rate will stay fixed based on the initial completion date. In case of default on part of the contractor causing delay in original schedule completion, the price adjustment rate will stay fixed based on the initial completion date, but it will still apply until the actual completion. If the rate reduces after the schedule completion, the new lower rate will be used for calculation. And in case if the contractor gets an approved extension without any fault of their own, they will receive the full price adjustment for the extended period. Now let's move on to the fourth one. The fourth one says, unless the contract says otherwise, you will only be paid for the specific item listed in the tender documents. These documents will clearly mention the different parts of civil, electrical, mechanical, and so on. Now the fifth one illustrates the price adjustment formula mentioned here applies to all kind of contracts like civil, electrical, mechanical, and so on. Those using the formula can change, add, or remove elements as they see fit. They can also decide on how much importance each element carries in relation to the estimated cost of the work. Now the sixth one indicates that any financial compensation for the elements mentioned above won't be re-evaluated because of the new laws unless the contract specifically says so. Now the seventh one illustrates that no changes in price will happen for elements that the employer gave free of cost or at fixed prices. This also applies to elements covered through an executive order of statutory regulatory order. Now the eighth one illustrates that this document is applicable to all type of contracts, whether they are based on item rate contracts, lump sum contracts, or percentage over schedule contracts. The ninth one says this document only covers adjustments in local currency and does not include adjustments in foreign currencies. Now the last one says If you are buying machinery and material from another country and the prices are given in Pakistani rupees, we will use the exchange rates from 28 days prior the tender opening date. Any changes in these exchange rates will affect the part of the payment in foreign currency which is specified in letter of credit set up by the contractor or the vendor. And that includes our discussion on the applicability of price adjustment. We will catch up in the next video of this video series. Thank you.